Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Dave for a very special spoiler discussion. It is, of course, Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 4, aka Chapter 20, The Foundling, directed by Apollo Creed himself, Carl Weathers, Grieve Karga, whatever you want to call him. It's a whole mouthful for an intro, and there's a lot to talk about. But before I get into that, Dave, how are we doing tonight?
Really good, my friend. Really good. It's nice to finally be able to get onto a Mandalorian episode. I know Phil's been doing an amazing job, but it's nice to be able to step back in and talk about them finally. So yeah, it's I'm really looking forward to it, especially this one.
Absolutely. And for everyone at home, this is a spoiler discussion. So if you want to get spoilers in the comments, you're more than welcome to. Your thoughts, your theories, all that sort of stuff, let us know. We'll talk about them. They mentioned Phil's not here. Phil is in Chicago having an amazing time at the moment. The one episode he probably would have been on, asked to have been on the most, ended up being the one he's in Chicago for. But he has been messaging to say he has seen it. So that is where Phil is. And I think he'll be back next week. I think he is back next week. We'll figure stuff out. I'm not going to be like, get on a YouTube stream. Because they've got Bad Batch next week as well. There's a lot of Star Wars things happening. Star Wars celebrations are weeks away. So as I said, do comment, get involved. If you do like this, maybe do consider hitting the subscribe button. And if you want to find us on our social medias, Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinema-savvy with a link to Redbubble in that description below. In the meantime, though, we are here talking these. And Dave, Martin saying hello as well. Hello to Martin and anybody else watching. This is the first time I've had you on for The Mandalorian so far this season.
Yes.
And just very quickly, can you give your brief thoughts on the season so far?
Really enjoyed it. It's been a really different sort of season. The Bo-Katan becoming and Kate said, obviously stepping up to be co-star, not just a special guest in this season. So it's been that intriguing story of her progression into the cult, I guess, is one way to put it, with the armorer and Din Djarin. So it's that step up and what she has really planned behind that mask, which I think we kind of build up a bit more today as well. But no, I've actually really enjoyed the season. I think it's been a really nice change of pace from what we had previously.
Yeah, I'd say so. There's been a lot of, I mean, it's Star Wars, of course there's discussions online, but certainly this season, more so than the others, I've seen a lot more discussion from, I would say, how would you call it? Not film Twitter, not the typical Star Wars discourse. I'd say it's been interesting reading the non-Star Wars fans' take on this so far.
Yeah.
I was about to say the dreaded Andor comparisons. Obviously, we love Andor, but there is a lot of, Mandalorian needs to be more like Andor conversation. And I'm not, no, like they're both amazing in their own right. And last week we got a bit of that.
Last week, last week was very much, could have been slotted into there.
Yeah, and I think in a really polite way, just given my thoughts last week, it was a great episode, and I think it genuinely displayed the difference in quality between the Andor production and Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Not saying it was bad by any stretch of the imagination, it was very good, but Andor's been exceptional at how that's been crafted, as is the Mandalorian in its own way. And Mandalorian, I'd say, returned to not normality, but as you said, it's been an interesting season so far. We're at the halfway point now, we're 4 episodes in.
Wow.
I'm seeing people complaining at the lack of story, which is blowing my mind. It couldn't be clearer what the large story is at the moment. It's certainly character-driven. Involves Bo-Katan, where every final shot has basically ended on her in the series so far, if anyone hasn't noticed that. But apparently it's not obvious where it's going. But aside from that, there's so much to talk about today. As I said, this is a spoiler discussion. We're going to talk about, I guess, the big moments. We've got the training montage. We've got the dragon thing. We got Order 66. We got a bird fight / foundlings, and then more Bo-Katan shenanigans. But Dave, over to you. Did you know that? Well, that sounds weird. I was going to sort of say let you speak, but I was going to ask you a question.
Cool.
Carl Weathers revealed to the world he was directing this last week, and he gave away the title, which was great. We've known all week it was called The Foundling. We knew it was going to be the shortest episode of the series so far. And kind of in line with that, we've kind of figured out we would get Grogu at the temple. But I did not expect it to kickstart with a training montage a la Rocky.
Totally. If Carl is going to bring anything in, it's going to be cool, awesome handshakes and training montages. And no wonder crocodiles do attack them from that river, as they're literally sitting on the edge of that river, shooting into it, firing rockets into it, literally just destroying the general area around that waterfront. But no, I thought it was a really good way to start it. It's nice to see like the size of it is grown again by the looks of when you see it this time. There's way more people than we've ever kind of seen out. So I don't know. Obviously, in the meantime, there's stuff happening, whether they're finding other Mandalorians who are still out there and bringing them into the fold as well, because there just seem to be a lot more, especially in the training, a lot more of the kids, the Foundlings, a lot more adult Mandalorians about doing different training methods. So yeah, it was really a really good start. I really enjoyed it.
No, I'm kind of with you on that. We've got Martin as well saying you can't beat a Rocky training montage. Oh my goodness, imagine if Stallone had turned. Stallone's actually Paz Vizsla and no one knew.
Stallone was
Wouldn't be
actually that big
surprised.
winged beast. That was actually Stallone.
It's just, I didn't expect it. And you know what? What I love about this is, and I'll say it straight away, the Mandalorians, they aren't all in the same armor. Yes, they're wearing armor, but every design looks different, whether it's the
Yeah,
weathering, the color patterns, the cycles. And that's something that I think when I first saw the trailers, I thought, oh, it's a bit not cheesy. I was like, it's just a load of cosplayers. And actually, I feel like I'm more on for saying now because it's actually creating an identity within that
yeah,
group that they are almost the last of them. Not the last of
yeah,
us. That's a very different thing. That's a great TV show. But that's what I've loved about this Mandalorian stuff, and where this series' main story is going with, not Grogu redeeming himself, but Din redeeming himself. Grogu, I guess, as of today, kickstarting his journey to becoming a Foundling, and of course, Bo-Katan's quest to unite Mandalore once more, which I think is where it's going to go.
oh,
It was great to see them all again in unison practicing. No wonder the sea monsters keep going for them. They're just like shooting up their oceans and their
just
walls for
blowing
no
everything up.
reason.
Yeah,
They're just trying to chill in peace. But these guys, they're doing initiations on the beach. We got a "I am your father" moment out of the blue as well today, which I think a lot of people spoke about. But the training stuff I loved. But I guess if we get into the core of that, we've got to talk about Mando, Grogu,
paintball firing.
Bo-Katan, Vizsla Jr. What was his name? Ragru, was it, or something?
Oh, I missed his name. Wasn't
They said his name once. I can't remember. This is why we need Phil. I'm joking.
yes, you would have picked this all up.
He's already remembered. I've seen the episode twice though, which kind of makes it worse. It did drop at 7 a.m. in the UK time for anyone curious at home. But we've got to talk about the Grogu paintball fight. I'm sorry, it's a paintball fight. I don't care about the word darts. I love the fact that he's with us now. Give him a gun. It's
Yeah,
like the reverse John Wick, isn't it? Like, just give him a gun. Doesn't matter how young he is. You just get him going. Let the opposition pick what it is. He's going to fight
yeah,
him and win. I was like, this is some big moments from Din Djarin, but it's given us another unreal Grogu scene, which is we knew he was going to do, a jump or something, but I did not expect that to go down the way it didn't. I thought it was just sensational TV. And you know what? Watching my dad on the second viewing site, he was laughing a lot, which is great because I thought it was funny.
yeah.
But it's nice that other people are going to have that as well.
I think you have to kind of have that with it. We all know when episode 2 came out, if you watch the behind the scenes stuff when they were going to bring Yoda in and George is talking about, you have to kind of make it really fast, otherwise people are going to laugh at it. But I think this is kind of done in a way. They're obviously using a real puppet and puppeteers in probably green suits flipping the actual model around and the little puppet around. So yes, it is going to look sometimes like a little bit goofy, but you know what? I don't mind that at all. That suspension of disbelief, if that's the way he did it. I just really like the flip to the back, the flip to the front, and then fired off his 3 paintballs into the kid's chest right in the center. Just loved it. I thought it was a really cool little part. I'm really liking how much Grogu has become part of this season, whereas he's been a little sidelined previously, and we're getting much more screen time with him. And I think we're definitely building up to maybe more of his story playing out as the season goes as well. I don't know quite where it'll go with him, but I do think we're getting more and more of him for a reason.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think one thing, again, we'll never know. There's always been that discussion, isn't there? Oh, they didn't intend for Grogu to be back with Din now or at all. They had to change things around, but it's not felt like, we've wrote a story and just had to chuck
No,
Grogu in to be along now. It feels like, okay, we've got Grogu in. What's his story? What's his journey going to be? So the one thing I'm loving is, I forgot the term for it, but every chapter title from this season could almost have a double meaning of more than one character.
yeah,
Because so far, they've all been about singularities, but every single one could apply to any of them.
yeah,
Certainly Bo-Katan being the most obvious of all 4 of those titles. And that's what I'm kind of loving with this, is that there's what we're seeing now, and this is where it's interesting people are coming in to sort of complain about the structure. Series 1 and 2 were very much not Saturday morning cartoons, but there's an overarching story. Mando's got the baby, got to get to a Jedi. Here's our adventure every week. Whereas this time, it feels far more like a series where the week to week is actually, okay, this is building here. What's going to be this? And, we've been talking for 3 weeks now, and Bo-Katan has been a forefront of this. Is she going to be a villain? Is she going to unite Mandalore? There's so much discussion coming in, and I'm absolutely loving it that I don't think we've been able to have that with the series so far. When you think back to what's been the biggest discussion points of the show, it's Din got the Darksaber. Which Jedi is going to get Grogu? That was more the weekly, what's it going to be? Whereas with this, it's far more structured in its sense, and I'm loving where the story is going. We don't know where it's going, but I think there's an inkling of, we've got a firm believer within Mandalore, and we've got someone with the Darksaber, which means you can rule Mandalore, and there's a very interesting story arc being set up to a direction I do not know where it's going to go yet. But just on that basis, what are your thoughts with this Mandalore story so far?
Again, it's something I'm really enjoying. I love this sort of rebuild of a people and a race of people brought together under this guise of that sect, like a sect of that group. And I like the way it's building that Bo-Katan is coming in, she's joining in, she's now started a lot of this is the way, as they all tend to do. This is the way a lot about everything and anything. This is the way. And that she's joining in, but yet you can almost see that she's plotting underneath all of this joining in with the Mandalorians. I do think you're right. I think it is going to be a story at the end of this about uniting Mandalore and which of them does unite Mandalore. I find it really interesting that Bo-Katan is now being pulled much more into the mythos of the Mandalorians, that she's seen the mythosaur, that she is now seeing what these people are, and that she was always one to take battle first. She was this battle-hardened warrior, and I don't know if this is now going to take, since she saw the mythosaur, whether she's going to go on a different route in a way to try and unite Mandalore again and rule a different way. But I don't know. I like the Mandalorian stuff. I'm really enjoying getting to see more of them. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing that, with the show called The Mandalorian, we know we've got Din in this. We know there is a Mandalorian at the forefront, but we need to see what else is going. We need to see his history, where it's going to go. And I think they've weaved this in quite well over the first 3 seasons. Going back to season 1, when he was getting picked up by, was it Death Watch we thought at the time that rescued him from the super battle droids? And we've seen this build up, this devotion to the creed, to the idea. We've seen the armorer go from what I was convinced was a basic supporting role of, like an associate, whoa, okay, there's so much more in play with this, to the point people are now theorizing online about the identity of the armorer. And I think all this stuff is really building to experience. And today's episode, I felt, was one of the first big episodes in. This is us pushing on these characters now, very set in their ways. As I said, Grogu on his path to becoming a foundling. And what I loved, and I kind of knew we were going to get it, but let's talk Order 66. The moment she says, "Follow me," I was like, something's going to happen, and we're gonna find out what went down there. And obviously the forging of the armor, I loved.
It was a great flashback to the way Din saw his flashback in season 1 with the banging of the armor and the sparks, and that's what then sent him into his vision of seeing how he was rescued. So I really thought it was a really nice play back into how we get back to Order 66. And my word, we were not disappointed this time to see what was going to go down.
I mean, we're going to save the obvious big discussion reveal for a couple more moments, but just the moment it cut into that, and I was like, I mean, let's take the clocks back to almost a year of Kenobi, right? We had that amazing Order 66 sequence, which built with Reva. Obviously, later on, it was a massive story part. And I guess Order 66 as a whole, some people joke that it's been sort of done to death, like Uncle Ben, which is ridiculous. Not Uncle Ben, sorry. Batman's parents. You know what I mean? You get like a supercut of every single time, like you've seen the Waynes get killed on screen. And I was like, well, that's ridiculous. That's the same 2 characters shot like 20 different times. This is an entire, not species, race, a group of people, a genocide committed in a series that's gone on for decades. And with an expanded universe, you can pinpoint different things. You know, when you go to Revenge of the Sith, we don't need to see a Baby Yoda escaping. We don't need to see Caleb Doom escaping. We don't need to know who's getting out and who's not. Or the purpose of it in Revenge of the Sith, Anakin's fallen to the dark side. He's gone in and killed the Jedi of the clones. Now, as a foundation, that's great. And like many people, a lot would say, I wish we had a bit more time. And I'm fully with them on that. But what we've been given over the last few years, the Disney era, let's get it out there, the Disney era has done this very well, is that this Order 66 is, to me, and I've said this so many times, I know that BBY obviously begins before Battle of Yavin, ABY after Battle of Yavin. If they were ever resetting the clocks, not that they would, it would be Order 66. It's the most fundamental moment to me in the history of Star Wars. Probably Old Republic is the biggest thing before Order 66. That's the real change of power. And I absolutely love the approach today. Was no big names. Well, no well-known Jedi names. No big name actors jumping in. We didn't get a twirling Kenobi. We didn't get a Mace Windu. That was always this terrible rumor that people had out there. We didn't get an Ahsoka. We had none of that. We had one of the greatest comebacks in Star Wars history come full circle today, which was the return of Ahmed Best. Somebody that was vilely treated by the Star Wars community. Have to put it out there. It was Star Wars fans that did this in the late 90s, the early noughties. It was critics. It was the internet. It was people at events. They pushed a young actor to the point of suicide. And not only has there been a bounce back, a generation below has grown up. Time has passed. And it's not right what happened all those years ago. But to see this 24 years later, Ahmed Best, in human character, not as motion capture, playing not just a Jedi Master. I forgot the name of his character from
Kelleran Beck,
which was, if you are unfamiliar with the Star Wars series on YouTube, this was shot in 2019. I believe it was released during COVID, which was very unfortunate. And for anyone curious, it's basically like a kid's show, but he played a Jedi looking after the younglings who were doing the challenges. Very much like Raven if you're British, or Temple Run was one of the other classics. And Jungle Run, sorry, not Temple Run. Temple Run's a game. To see this character be put on screen in television fashion, in a proper costume, with a high budget, on Coruscant, in action sequences, and it wasn't a 15-second cameo. Look, here's a Jedi we know. Oh, he's dead. A character who is alive at this point of storytelling in this flashback. Whether we get more is a gigantic question. It was one of the most uplifting moments I've ever had watching Star Wars. I can't quite put it to words. That was not, as I said, it wasn't who I was expected, but there has been this quiet build-up online. Who saved Grogu? Who snatched Grogu? And just the way they shot the scene, the elevator, the tension, and it wasn't even a big, look at me, I'm here. It was just this, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And that's all it needed to be. And it is worth a million different moments. I know that Ahmed Best done a few posts on Instagram today about it, saying he's going to talk more in the next few days.
It was amazing. I mean, when the actual scene starts, they do say a couple of times, get him to Kelleran, and the name just didn't click in my head as to who it was. I'd seen the Jedi Temple Run show, like a couple of the episodes that were on YouTube Kids, so I'd seen a couple of them just to see what it was, and obviously Ahmed Best was back and being put up as a Jedi, so you kind of, oh, that's nice, that's great. But to then actually see those doors open of the lift that Grogu was in, and there he stood, it was a moment of just like, oh, it's perfect. That's exactly who should play this part, to play that role, to rescue Grogu, to have this full circle come back. Part of me wishes it was Jar Jar, but theories online is it is Jar Jar's ship that he takes at the end.
But it's a Naboo ship. It's got Naboo yacht, fighters. Yeah. Naboo yacht.
Obviously, Amidala's dead on Mustafar, so it's not her ship. So some people are saying,
no, she's crying at Coruscant. She's crying at Coruscant at this time.
Yes, actually, that's just gone off. So it might be.
Which there is a theory.
Does she take that ship? Is that the one she takes to?
Oh, probably not that one.
Probably not. Well, not that actual one, but it's that.
There's a theory. Yeah. There is a theory. There is a very strong theory doing the rounds. I know this is jumping into the flashback.
Do it.
A lot of people believe that Padme. Now, this is a stretch. and I don't know if it'll be true, but it's great to think about this, that when Padme saw the temple on fire, she sent a squad of Naboo out to get to the platform to hope someone comes. Now, it's very plausible. It's very easy theory. It's great. It works for her character. It works for the story. She obviously wanted Anakin. The guards say, who else? No one else. That works fundamentally. I don't need that to be done in black and white. Oh, yes, Padme, Senator Amidala sent us here to get all the Jedi out. I'm glad that would be too easy, and I think it would be a bit cheap, because then you're going to get sniped. Like, oh, well, why didn't she go over there then? But I just love the fact that Ahmed Best's character is not just the one that's got great. He's had an insane action set piece on a speeder bike. He's had double lightsabers and fought off clones.
Yeah.
He has been
all
fighting
voiced
in tunnels.
by Tamira Morrison as well. Like they all sounded like it was all voiced.
Yes, they were, and it's just amazing. And that's a big thing. Like even going back to Kenobi last year when we had the Tamira Morrison cameo, this guy's still in with Lucasfilm. Bring him in. No disrespect to D. Bradley Baker, who's doing a phenomenal job with Bad Batch. This is the live action clones. You've got to go to Tam Morrison. And I know there's been a lot of talk online. There's been a lot of whitewashing of Bad Batch merchandise. And I'm fully aside by anyone kicking off about that, you know, when they're doing the animated to you know, what would you call it? Animated to live action, but in merchandise.
Yeah.
None of them have looked like Tamara Morrison recently, and they were like white, and everyone's been kicking off. So continue kicking off at Hasbro. I'm very understanding of that. But it just felt so. It felt like I was back in 2005, like another great Order 66 moment. And there's so many more of these they could do. Not that you should just do it for the sake of it, but when you have a character that story needs it, like what we had in Jedi Fallen Order, why not go with it? It adds more to the experience of Star Wars for me.
It was bizarre because I was watching it on the screen, and suddenly I thought, oh, it looks a bit like it's someone on like a blue screen at times. It's had a like where he didn't quite blend it out, but you know what I then realized? It looks exactly like it did in episode 2. Like literally the flying scene where a little bit, you can obviously tell they're not on the actual set, but it blended in exactly the way it did in the prequels. It looked like the prequels. I don't know if the plates that they're using for Coruscant are stuff that's already being created or if this is brand new stuff that they're making. I don't know, but it looked like prequel era. It was spot. It looked so. If someone edited that into Order 66, it would blend in perfectly well with the actual scene. Nothing would look out of place on it, and that was probably the biggest compliment I give it. That it took me right into episode 3 again, and I was there. I was like, oh, that is. I thought it was amazing. I loved flying around Coruscant again. I love when he landed and crashed the bike, and they asked him, "Where's the rest?" And he was like, "There are no others." Like he's the only one who's got out of that. I loved seeing the temple on fire. Just something that simple, like seeing the Jedi Temple for the first time in a while from the outside, where we've kind of been to Coruscant a few times and never really seen any of the big landmarks. So this was a really nice throwback to see that again.
I mean, especially what I didn't realize last week when we spoke about the Dr. Pershing stuff. Obviously, they went to the plaza they were at. Now, I didn't know until after we recorded that was an original Ralph McQuarrie concept. And that was, again, one of those things making its jump to not live action, but the beauty of Ralph McQuarrie's work on Star Wars is that decades after, they're finding so many things they can keep coming to him with. And I think to me, that's so important that we do get that from them, that they do continue looking at the heritage of Star Wars, what made this a Star Wars type thing. And it's just great to see that. And kind of that was in a shot today when he comes out the service tunnel, you see all of that start happening. You see the plaza, and it's just great to go back there and see, the rock from last week as well. What hasn't changed in these? We've got Sam in the comments. Half of episode 3 now, so try much episode 4 after that scene through Naboo. Loving. Yeah, Sam sent me a voice message for us. Wait, you've not seen episode 3? I think I missed something. I'm so confused. Yeah, I think he's watched. Sam, comment. Did you watch the episode 4 clips today and then do episode 3? I'm confused, but I'm excited nonetheless. And it's just one of those things that again, when they were showing Grogu's saber, I was expecting like a 30 seconds. Here's a face, here's a being grabbed, and this is it. And now part of me thinks, and I don't want to get hopes too excited because they've took their time with Grogu's origin. With 3 seasons in, they're not rushing it. They're taking their time. I wonder if we'll get more of Amna Best this season.
I can't see why now we wouldn't find out where he took Grogu to start with, how he ended up on the planet he did, how he got maybe the capture up to maybe that point of capture, like not a flash of them traveling, but them maybe crashing on a planet or just ending up there, and why his pram is in the place it is, how he's being held captive under all of those boss type creatures that I never remember the name of. So yeah, it's really intriguing, but I think there's no reason why we shouldn't see more. They might save it for later down the line if they're going to continue on that, where they're going to give us a flashback every now and again. They may not need it for the rest of the story they're telling this season, but I am intrigued. I would love to see more Armor Best. I thought it was just a really nice, just for a guy to have come full circle to now be quite not just quite, but an integral character in the Mandalorian story. Wonderful.
I mean, if the fact he's the one that saved Grogu, and that's the big thing. That is a choice that they probably knew. It can't just be a random Jedi. It could be someone in the temple, but ultimately, I mean, this is season 1's 9 years after episode 4, so that's what 5 years after Return of the Jedi. That's somebody that's been from that temple 28 years ago. And I love that they even aged him. Like, I know he's still a baby, but like, you can see that aging of him as well. And
the puppet has changed. Yeah, it has changed very slightly. I'd quite like to see the original to where he is now to see what changed in it, but there's certainly changes in the actual puppet itself.
I mean, the puppeteers today were on top form with him, and it's amazing to again see it. And I guess 3 seasons in, there will be different designs. There'll be new technologies advancing that they can use to articulate him more. And I just think it was great seeing him in these scenes, without Mando, with just the armor, him interacting with new people, even with the dark stuff. I just thought it was so well done. And again, it's the Mandalorian, as much as it is called the Mandalorian, it's the Mando. Everyone knows Grogu is as integral to the story as the Mandalorian is, and that's what's amazing, is that we're getting the backstory for them both. We're seeing them both develop, and it's each one of them being away from the other just adds to how they react with one another. And again, just Din just giving him that dark gun straight, like, I'm going to get him fighting. It was just, and that set up even the big moment today with the what we're calling it, a bird, a dragon. I don't know what that thing was meant to be. But I liked it. I just don't know. I'm sure there's a canon name, or there will be in the coming weeks and months. But I love this idea of someone compared it to Jurassic Park. Like, I can't remember which journalist tweeted, but someone basically put like, "Oh, it's like all the Mandalorians just moved into Jurassic Park, but they're totally okay with it because they're getting killed by sea things in the first episode, flying ones in this." I loved this mini story of we've still got to go out, we've got to find another Foundling, because it doubles at that title once more. That there's the new catchphrase. Oh God, I don't want to say it wrong already. I know what we.
You don't know until you've said or heard. Yes, I know the line you mean, but I can't quote it yet.
But that someone did, I think it might have been Olden, did a tweet saying that's basically the concept of online discourse. Is it don't speak unless you know? Along those lines,
right, yeah.
And I love that this is a new little thing, because the son, obviously, we used from episode 1, which is got the matching helmet as his dad as well, which I noticed now. This all set up very well. I just love this idea with them that's what they're playing with. That we've got other Mandalorians here, and they do care. We're learning about how they treat Foundlings. It was the highest respect for Bo-Katan to help be involved in saving it. They wouldn't fly up and try and shoot it down because it could kill a Foundling. That's important, that we get to see this developments within them, within how they treat these youngsters. And there's been a lot of discussion online that it is a cult, and I'm fully with them. It is very much that. Some people compare it to the Jedi, that their downfall is their own rules, which is interesting. Some people are a bit too extreme, like, oh, it can't be the show's promoting. It's like, it's not promoting it, any stretch of imagination, but it is interesting seeing different people's different reactions to the creed.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's still in the early stages of what's going to be the main story for them. We pretty much didn't have them in season 2. They pretty much dipped after season 1, and season 3 has been the one where they've come in and still no mention of the Darksaber today. I did think, could he not just flown and just got it out? But then, he can't. He hasn't got the weight. He might just drop to the floor. But just with the flying beast subplot, I love just seeing the Mandalorians action, working with each other. going up to the bird's nest, which was great in its own right. Might have to watch the episode now. I feel like we might have ruined it for you.
Yeah, sorry, man. Spoiler
unless
alert.
you're rewatching it. But it's just the whole concept of today's episode. I think they nailed it. They knew that there was a story within Grogu, but there needed to be a present day story. It couldn't just be a flashback for 30 minutes. It couldn't be like last week. Last week, well, it's concurrent, but this week it needed to be different. And yeah, I mean, what do you want to say about the flying beast thing? I don't have much to say if I'm being true.
Yeah, it's great they've got this kind of land of the lost place where they're getting all these old school creatures and monsters to fight. It then also gave us that beautiful shot of the waving heat sun where Bo-Katan's ship is flying after it, and it's in that beautiful skyline. It looked stunning. I love how Bo-Katan uses this to ingratiate herself more with the armorer, to just push herself a little bit further and up the pecking order in the creed. So she's come in as this outsider who took off her helmet a lot, and now she's seen a mythosaur. She's now saved a foundling. She's took the lead of the mission, so she got to stay by the fire where she got to eat. Now she's now been accepted by them and moving throughout. She seems to be weaving her way where she wants to be very, very, very carefully along. So she's not making it too obvious, but she knows where she wants to get to.
Yeah.
And she's going to use any means necessary to get to that place without probably making too much of a stir until she's in the exact position she wants to be, where she'll make her move to, I believe, to take over from the armorer. Certainly, I think she'll maybe try and usurp that position to take over. But I love the Bo-Katan story. I love the beast story of just, let's go find some big birds that we can bring back. Like the foundlings, are they going to eat them? I don't know. Whatever they're going to do with these massive birds, put them in Mandalorian armor. I'm looking forward to seeing it either way.
Yeah, I mean, even at the beginning, like when they run out of fuel, which made me laugh with the jetpacks. It's like, oh no, we always run out of fuel. It's like, you've had a few kids now, then. And like, did no one think to fly? And I love that Bo-Katan is on it already. She's gone straight to her ship. She's flying, and it's great seeing her. Exactly. I mean, I didn't even think that. Would she usurp the armorer? Because I love the final exchange. Is that cryptic? Oh yeah, you're just having a vision, aren't you? No, I've actually seen it. This is the way. And like, that's probably really pissed her off. And I'll give it to Kate Sackhoff. She spoke this week about acting with the helmet on. So there's obviously been a lot of discussion, with the actors that do this. And she said, I think she had long lines because she's never really done it before. She's loved working with the helmet on. And she says that she'll often go to the monitor, rewatch her takes to see what she can do physically different with the lines, which I thought was great. And because I think there's been a bit too much discourse around Pedro Pascal. Obviously, we know Lateef Crowder and Brendan Wayne do a lot of the work in that. In the Mando suit, we know Pedro Pascal has done a lot as well. We know the earlier seasons, I believe it was about equal, they always said, but we know with season 3 it's been the least because of The Last of Us filming.
I mean, basically this season he's more of a voiceover artist than anything in this season. Pedro, I think we still might get a reveal, probably if we're going to get one, it'll be the last episode of the season where he might see his face as just a ta-da, it is him. Yeah, to give us that. But yeah, I mean, we know he's doing The Last of Us, we know he was away doing that, so it's perfect when they've got these two stuntmen, these actors who've been doing such an amazing job in the role in the first 2 seasons, where unless you look really, I mean, you'd have to know their nuances of movements so well to pick out that's that one, that's that one. But I think they're doing an excellent job. I think there's a combination of the 3 of them put this character together. And fair play, I love that they're named in the credits as well. They get an actual credits in the main titles, which is great.
Yeah, and I think they deserve it. And it goes back to the Dave Prowse stuff, doesn't it, of Darth Vader from the very beginning. And that's always been in the history of Star Wars. There's nothing wrong with that, especially when, I mean, I guess the difference now is originally, James Earl Jones wasn't credited on the first Star Wars film. Obviously, everyone knew who that was. But it is just one of those where, with roles like this, it is normal for that to be shared. And it is great that the respective actors behind the suits do also have the credits, the focal point of that. And I think Pedro spoke very much about that, saying as well, like, it's important for him that they get credited, which isn't just him taking the credit for other people's work. It's that shared effort. And even the Bo-Katan stuff, again, just sort of going back to that finale, she's playing the game It's not Game of Thrones at this point. And I'm going to make a Game of Thrones comparison where I know you've not watched it, have you?
No.
Don't worry, I wouldn't. I know not to start with this. The way the entire show ended with two characters, Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen, a lot of people are comparing to Bo-Katan and Mando today, which is a very fascinating discussion point. Those that have watched Game of Thrones know exactly what I mean by that. But I certainly think Bo-Katan and Din are going to be the protagonists moving forward, or the protagonist/antagonist. I think everything's going to revolve around them. There are so many different scenarios I could have in my head. I don't want to bore them with theories because theories just don't excite me, but it's just nonsense you can come up with. For example, one of them had, right, Bo-Katan becomes this devoted, ideologist to Mandalore. And for all we know, she might die at the end of the season. And then Din's like, all right, I've got to do it now. I'm not a writer. Not going to happen. But I like the fact it's just not, this is so obviously she's going to become this villain. Or she's annoyed that someone said something. She's killed them. She's got that ruthless side. They've avoided all of that. We're in these incredible early stages of just seeing Bo-Katan develop. Yeah, if you've seen the Clone Wars and Rebels, great. You've had 11 episodes with her in. 11 episodes. That's the not many. 11 episodes of how many total episodes are there? Probably between Clone Wars and Rebels, probably about 200, 250-ish total between them. And this is it. To be in 11 of those is great. And there's been foundations for a character, but for me, and this is why I find it very important watching my dad, he's not sat there saying, oh, what's she from? Am I meant to know this? Because that's now become a thing. People are going, oh, imagine watching The Mandalorian not knowing all this stuff. I was like, but they've written it so that people that haven't watched it do get it.
Need to, yeah.
Obviously, not including Book of Boba Fett watchers. That one was terrible.
That was a bad idea.
Well, it's just such a... And the thing is, they won't do that again. I think they won't do that again. I mean, there'll be nothing that big to probably need to do that again. But it's just one of those things where the approach to writing the characters and developing them has been done on screen. It's not being done behind the scenes. It's not being done between seasons, except Mando and Grogu, sorry. It is just a new approach. And as I said earlier, every shot of the series has ended with Bo-Katan. Yeah. It's been her face. I know it was over her shoulder, but taking the mythosaur, and I love that. What's the armorer's thinking behind it? Is the armorer thinking, oh, she genuinely is deluded, or is the armorer thinking, you know what, she knows? And because Emily Swallow that plays armor, I think has been incredible in her performances in the series as a whole. Yeah. And I love the way this character's playing, because I don't know where it's going to go with the armor as well. You could be right. She might come for the armorer.
She seems to be the person who's in the highest position within that group. They're the one she looks to. Din, you're right, has the dark saber, but he rarely takes it off his belt. He very rarely uses it because he doesn't have the power to wield it, like we saw Bo-Katan in the last episode before, just get a hold of that dark saber like it was part of her. And it was incredible to watch her fight with that. And I just think the armorer might have suspicions of Bo-Katan still. She's accepted her. Yes, she said that she's part of it. But I do think that this is the way at the end. Not to mock her, but almost like okay, I kind of understand where you are, who you are, what you might be planning, that the armorer may already have inklings of what Bo-Katan is doing. I don't think she'll end up being the bad guy Bo-Katan, but I think she might still be the person who is wanting to just get, now she knows Mandalore is livable again, that she may want to take them back to Mandalore and to be the ruler of that and the royal family again. I just think she has a big play at some point to make, and I'm really interested to see what that play is.
Absolutely, and I think that's the core of this series. To me, this is going to be Bo-Katan's series. You know, she's at the forefront of the credits as well. She's not just she's a lead role in the series, I believe, not a recurring role, or she's a recurring role and no longer a guest star. One of those two different ones, and it's just been amazing seeing this. And I think they've crafted the series around this, knowing that we're halfway in. We've got an inkling of what's happening, but they're taking their time. They're patiently developing, and we just know that when something's big's going to happen, we can tell you that something big's going to happen, and it is going to be her, whether it's with Din, whether it's with the armor, whether it's politics. This is all what builds the series, and I quite like it. And I think the way I see it, there'll be a moment, maybe it's the finale, I don't know. There'll be a moment where Din's probably going to have to pick Bo-Katan or the Creed. And I think that is going to be a humongous potential story point. And that could be, it might not happen, but if it was me, I think that could be an episode 7, 8 type thing.
But I love the fact we're now at the midway point. I have no inkling of where they're going to finish the story. Doesn't tell me where they're going next, other than probably Grogu's going to get shot at some point because now he has 2 layers of Beskar on him, and that's enough to stop anything. But no one else knows that's inside there. But they're just, yep, you've got another piece of armor to go on there, and that's amazing. Right in his chest, yeah, he's getting shot at some point. I'm sure of it. But I don't know where we're going. We've not been told where the end goal is. It's not find Grogu and find where he needs to go back. It's not get him to a Jedi by the end of the season. We're just still here. We're like, I don't know what's going to happen next week. There's no forward planning at all. I can't see where we're going, which I love. That brings next week in, and I'm going to be looking forward to it because I have no idea of the next story point.
No, exactly. And I'm the exact same with you with that. And what we kind of say, I think we've done everything for marketing now. I think every shot, bar maybe one, has been used from the trailers. We knew that early on. We knew we'd be getting Order 66. We've had it today. And I just want to kind of just shouting out Carl Weathers. This is his second Mandalorian episode. I know he did one in the season 2. It was the not the Moff Gideon one, when Grogu is at the school and they're at the cloning facility. He's had 2 big ones in terms of story now I think about it. And, for those watching Bad Batch, kind of segueing from last week, Phil made a comment. I'll make a comment this week. The cloning stuff, this isn't a one-off. This is a very big thing for what the Empire was planning, what time point you're in. It's very exciting. It goes back to the Clone Wars of the Zillo Beast, doesn't it? All that time ago. So,
spoilers.
It's one of no, that's not spoiler. What I meant was that back in Clone Wars, do you remember like Palpatine was planning long term?
Yeah.
And this is kind of it, that we're seeing shackles of where this is moving. And what I'm excited for with the Mandalorian is, who is the villain, but what is going to be next? Is it going to be Moff Gideon? Has he escaped? Has he not? Yeah. Is it Thrawn, who hasn't been cast in this series, but everyone's talking about coming in this series? And we're 4 weeks away from knowing all of those for series 3 at least.
Yeah,
we've got Star Wars Celebration in a few weeks, which we're very excited for. But I'll talk about that in a minute. But final thoughts on Chapter 20. This is an all-timer. This is when people are going to pinpoint certain Mandalorian episodes. To me, this will be near the top.
Yeah, I think that Carl Weathers has done an amazing job. To be given the Order 66 stuff, I think there's a massive tip of the hat to how well they think he was going to direct that. I thought it was really well paced. I thought they got so much into 32 minutes, including end credit and previously on. So like 32 minutes is one of the shortest episodes this season, or the shortest episode, crammed so much into a little bit of time. I thought it was excellently done. I loved everything with Grogu. I loved our best coming back. I loved all of that. Coruscant flying around just was perfectly done. I can't heap enough praise in it. For me, it's right up there as an episode of Mandalorian. Loved it.
No, absolutely. I'm the same with you, and that's kind of echoing my thoughts. And I guess that's going to round out today's video. A bit shorter than the others, but as I said, it was a shorter episode. We had the core of Order 66. We'll get Phil's thoughts next week. We'll have a lot more time, no doubt. If Phil's watching, he's joking. He'll message us. Hope everything's going well. But for everyone watching at home, those that haven't missed us live, we have a lot of people catching it as the coming days. I know the time zones are changing next week, so I know right now we're live at the same time as Star Wars Explained, which is not something you want to be quote unquote competing against. No competition there. But please do comment below with your thoughts on the Mandalorian, especially Chapter 20, the Foundling. As I said, an all-timer. I'm excited to see what people think. I'm excited to see what they think is going to happen across the upcoming episodes and what they're looking forward to. So please do get involved, hit that subscribe button. A lot more Star Wars stuff coming your way, especially over the next few weeks. I mean, let's talk Star Wars Celebration. We had the first episode. You joined us for I say previewing the event. It's more of a live stream, a chat, a Q&A, discussing the event, things looking forward to, trying to help everyone. There's going to be another episode this Sunday. No time yet, but the second episode is going to come up this Sunday. We've got a guest coming on as well, which we'll be able to talk about. I just don't like announcing guests until we're actually live. That's just the way how it goes. But that's what I'm very excited to. Someone that's going to be at the event as well. And yeah, let us know your thoughts for Celebration. There's going to be a panel involving the Mandalorian. There's going to be an Ahsoka panel. There's a lot of Star Wars stuff coming your way. So, as if you're a fan of Star Wars, if you're curious, do hit the subscribe button. I'm not just saying it for the sake of it. There's a lot of Star Wars coming on the way, and it's lovely to be talking Star Wars again, especially those chilled out Celebration streams. And the event won't be chilled out. That's going to be stressful.
It is.
But yes, and for everybody at home, we've obviously got a lot of other videos. We don't just do Star Wars stuff. Go find us on social media to find out what else is up. Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy, Facebook, letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. Link to Redbubble in the description below. We had a John Wick spoiler-free review come up on Tuesday. That's out in cinemas tomorrow. Previews, whatever that's meant to mean. Like half the cinemas are showing it, half aren't. It's out properly on Friday. Pointless preview being a Thursday afternoon. But we're going to go live on Friday evening with a spoiler discussion on John Wick Chapter 4. So if you're a fan of John Wick, you can check that out. It's one we want to talk about in a bit more depth. So Josh will be joining me on there. And then it's all Star Wars again moving forward. A lot of Star Wars stuff. Dave, thank you as always for coming on.
Anytime.
To everyone commenting at home, thank you so much. And we'll see you on the next one. Take care.